One of my favorite ways to help kids fall in love with reading is read aloud. Today, we're going to be talking about the book that I'm going to kick off the year reading aloud to my fifth graders. I'm so excited to start the school year with them. But picking the first read aloud is stressful. You want it to be perfect. You want it to set the tone. You want it to lead to other reading. There's so many things that you want. And part of the reason that you want all these things is because you know the power of read aloud. You know what read aloud can do. As someone who is a giant college sports fan, football and basketball especially, you'll see these recruitment videos where they're announcing where they're going to college and they have like all of the hats lined out, and then they like maybe put one on and then pick the other one up, and they're deciding where they're going to go to school. This video kind of feels like that to me. This time of the year feels like that, like, what am I going to pick? But because by picking one book, I'm not picking a bunch of other books. That's why it's so stressful. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about some of these and why these would make amazing beginning of the year read alouds. First, A Strange Case of Origami Yoda. I've read this the last 2 years. It's one of the best read alouds ever in a 4th, 5th, or 6th grade classroom. I will, without a doubt, be reading this book to my 5th graders this year. There's no question about it. It is that good. This actually might be the only read aloud from last year that I read again, but it has been the first read aloud for the last 2 years, and I like to mix it up a little bit. So this will not be the first read aloud of the year. Next up, The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. Coyote Lost and Found is coming out this school year, which means if I read them this, they're all gonna love it. You can't help but love it. Almost all of them will love it. And then when the new one comes out, there'll be so much buzz, so much excitement in the air that so many of them will rush to the shelves to read Coyote Lost and Found. I love this book so much, but this is actually not this year's read aloud. I have not had kids reading Andrew Clement's books the last couple of years, and that's a problem. We need to do a better job. I need to do a better job of book talking, First Chapter Friday, reading aloud. Frindle, one of the all-time great read alouds. It's nice and short, great way to kick off the year. Then they just read Andrew's books the rest of the year, but not this year's read aloud. A couple of years ago, I read this book, Ghost, aloud to my 5th graders, and it led to so many kids devouring the track series. They couldn't get enough of the track series. So if I started a year with Ghost, would that mean that so many of my 5th graders would spend the rest of 5th grade lost in this amazing series? Maybe. This is not going to be my first read aloud. Next up, Out of My Mind. And you're saying, that's not out of my mind, that's out of my heart. I know, because I can't find my copy of Out of My Mind. So I didn't get it before the first day of school. And Out of My Mind helps build that community. It rocks their world. A lot of them will read this afterwards. There's some of those like, oh, moments. So stinking good. But Out of My Mind is not my first read aloud. I do a podcast with my friend Travis Yonker, and in one of our recent episodes, we had Jared Lerner on and talking about his book, A Work in Progress. And during that interview, he was talking about an author that he talked to before he went on tour to talk about A Work in Progress, because it's a pretty serious topic in that book. I'm not reading A Work in Progress first. Almost certainly will read it aloud at some point this year. And when he was talking in the interview about going and talking about these difficult topics with kids, he said that an author told him, just tell the truth. Always tell kids the truth. And that just really stuck with me and stuck in my heart, the truth, and giving that to them and loving them and trusting them enough to be honest with them is so powerful. And then I was thinking about that book that the author, Linda Mullally Hunt, wrote, is the author who gave Jared that advice. It's like, man, I love reading this book aloud. Would it make a good read aloud? Would it make a good first read aloud? Yeah, probably. It's a little longer. I like to be about 200 pages for the first one. It's like 270. I'm like, but man, it just feels in my heart like this is the book I should read. They need Allie's story. It will build the community that this classroom needs to have, that these kids need to hear this story and this message. And then I opened it up. I opened up this book, and there was this note from a 5th grader that I had 2 years ago. It said, amazing book. Thank you for letting me read it. Think about that. A book that is so good, that is so touching, that a kid is thanking me for letting them read it. The first book that I read aloud to my 5th graders during the 2023-2024 school year is this amazing book, Fish in a Tree. I'd love to know what you're reading aloud to your kids to start the year. Let me know down in the comments. It's going to be a great year. We're going to read so many books in this classroom, starting with Fish and the Tree. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Colby Sharp. I hope you have an awesome, fantastic